Please spell your name, say and spell your name for the camera.
Ken Cole, Kencole.
Lance Rogers, Lancerogers.
Ken, could you tell us a little bit about your professional and educational background?
My professional background has involved sales and management of companies in the oil field business. I was the secretary for the Australian Council for Health, Physical Education and Recreation at one stage. I was the first recreational officer appointed to the Education Department in South Australia. I was the director of coaching for basketball in South Australia, and then I was a full-time coach and general manager of successful basketball franchises down under. Then I ran tours through the United States of teams playing major colleges, and branched off into being a national marketing director for a large natural health product company. And I did that for 15 or 20 years before going out on our own fairly recently, over the last decade.
Excellent. Could you tell me a little bit about your different medical conditions that you currently suffer from, when you started using medical marijuana, and how it helps you treat those conditions?
I've been insulin dependent. I've been diabetic for probably 30 years and insulin dependent for about 26, 27 years. I got it under control with diet initially. When it first started to turn, actually, my diabetes started to turn very badly on me. I did use marijuana in Australia at that stage, and I was fairly controversial because of it, and decided it was probably better not to do so. And I think I paid a price health-wise for doing that. In hindsight, everything went very badly for 6 or 7 years, with huge amounts of prescription medication, huge amounts, 8 different medications a day, along with twice-a-day injections. And over the years, I've managed to take myself off all medication other than insulin. And prior to a particular strain of medical marijuana that I now use, I was also using blood pressure, 2 capsules a day for blood pressure, which I can now control with medical marijuana without needing any other medication. So I really have got it down to pretty much just take insulin twice a day and have for 27 odd years. And I use marijuana for everything else. In particular, about nearly 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with a particularly deadly form of cancer, multiple myeloma, and it's a cancer of the blood inside the bone. And so there's no cure, but I think with natural foods, which is what I'm relying largely on, and I use marijuana for pain, to relieve pain in particular, and more importantly to sleep. And certainly over the last 6 to 8 months, I've used it extensively to eat. I have a real problem being hungry enough to eat, and with the diabetes, of course, you really do need to eat. It's supposedly 3 times a day, but certainly I eat twice a day, and I eat very little. So it's just been a blessing without any doubt in the world. And I knew this anyhow when we decided and made a decision to get involved in the industry. But as far as I'm concerned, the drugs that can be prescribed for me as this cancer worsens, there's only 2 drugs for this particular rare form of cancer, and they're both steroid based. And because of the steroid base, the steroids would use all of my insulin. So it wouldn't matter how much insulin I tried to inject into the body, the steroids would use all of that insulin. So I would literally die of diabetic complications. My best guess is within 5 days, and the body everything would just shut down. My whole body would just shut down. So I can't use the only 2 medications. I hate to sort of say this sort of thing, but it's supposedly as painful a form of cancer that it's humanly possible to get. It's inside the bone, and it causes the bones to simply start to break. And depending on whether it's in the skull or the spine or it's in the legs, there's no other way to get around it. And I do not want to end up as a vegetable on morphine and every heavy-duty drug that they can pour into my body to keep me alive for a little bit longer isn't my idea of quality of life for my family in particular. So that's where that's what's guiding me.
How do the medical professionals that you interact with, the doctors that are overseeing your treatment and such, feel about your use of medical cannabis?
They've been superb. There's not one of them that they've all been very aware from the minute that I started speaking to them. And recently, my regular doctor on here that I've used for quite a few years now, I did stop smoking for 1 week when I started to get very sick, and we decided we'd take a break and I would try and see what pain level I was at. I had no idea. I've been, smoking so consistently now for 3 years, I had no idea where I may be at pain-wise, so I stopped. And 2 days after I stopped, or not even 2 days, I developed shingles in a manner that I've never seen and obviously never experienced. And instead of being away for a week, on the 4th day, my wife drove us straight back home here, and we cut short our out-of-town stay, and the following morning I was in the emergency ward at 3 o'clock in the morning. The pain was so excruciating, and all of my doctors said immediately I should never have stopped smoking. And so there is no doubt that it has been able to keep some of the stress under the skin, sort of thing. It's been able to keep it under control to an extent that the system hasn't shut down. I literally have with this cancer and the diabetes, I literally have no immune system. My immune system is, for all intents and purposes, gone. So I'm vulnerable to anything that goes around, and the common cold is the most frightening thing for me. So, I'm wary of all of these side effects, and it just seems that medical marijuana is holding things in a manner that nothing else that the doctors are able to prescribe is doing so, and I think that they're very happy with it. But they can't personally go ahead and recommend, because they then get threatened with perhaps losing their licenses.
You mentioned earlier there's a particular strain of cannabis that helps treat your pain or your condition. Can you tell us a little bit more about that strain?
Well, I think there's this incredible misconception dating back to the 60s and a lot of the movies even that roll around today about stoners. Everybody's just smoking and rolling around whacked out of their skulls, and whereas in effect, and I, coming from an industry at times too, very involved in health industry, health companies that are in multi-level marketing that have natural products and a wide variety of things like that, you do become a little wary about anecdotal evidence, because group mentality can take over at meetings, and people can all of a sudden all get excited about something in a group meeting that maybe isn't quite realistic. So I'm always wary of that. However, when we've got anecdotal evidence going 50 to 60 years, when we've got a product that's been fought by the government in the most outrageous manner for half a century and has continued to expand year after year after year, it's not expanding because more and more people just want to use it recreationally. It's expanding because over 50 to 60 years, a lot of people have begun to realize this is an incredible alternative to natural health. This gives them the opportunity to lead a relatively normal life. And what we have to do, and a lot of people have become very, very capable of this now, is you just continue to work with certain blends, whether they be a nighttime blend or a basic day type blend, until, like a lot of things, until you find the particular blend that is giving your body the most help and the most benefit. And it doesn't take very long before you start to realize which strains can really start helping you with your quality of life. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's just, it's something, and I know I've said this over and over to a lot of people, I think we can change the healthcare system of a nation. I think we can change the way we look at it. I think we can save medical costs. Would cost in an aged care facility, my estimate is I could save you 75% of your expenditure on prescription drugs.
When did you decide to open One-on-One Patients Association, and why?
We opened about 2.5 years ago, Christmas about 2 years ago, and it really came about largely in conversations with my kids. Since we'd been here in California, which is now 14 or 15 years, whatever, but since we'd been here and realized that you could use medical marijuana, and then started to try and use some. Then talking to, it was mainly my adult children that were saying to me, hey Dad, you know, you look at all of the benefits that you got. Nobody can sort of talk about this more positively. Have you ever thought about maybe having a dispensary? And I had never given it a thought. And at that stage, we just simply started to go visit some places and then look at what the law said. And once we became fairly convinced that this could work, you know, this could be really something that could be worthwhile, and what a nice way to sort of finish your working life out into your 70s or whatever, to be able to do something that you feel good about every day would be really nice. And then the President of the United States made a variety of statements, if you're following state law and running it as a not-for-profit, so and laying down all of the basic guidelines. And the Attorney General said the same thing, that the federal people weren't going to go after people following state law. So our whole basis then was read the state law carefully, get legal advice to make sure that we're going to be in full compliance, and find a building, hopefully, that fitted what I believed, you know, that people could get there easily from a variety of ways, that it was in an area that was an adult sort of area really initially, and follow all of the guidelines. And that's what we did. And there is nothing that has been, excuse me, there is nothing that's been more spiritually rewarding than this. Absolutely nothing. And I've said to a lot of our business friends for quite a while now, and I know it's sort of sticking it to them in certain ways, but I've said over and over, do you know how good it feels to run a business that's a not-for-profit? Do you know how good this is? I said, to not be answerable to board holders, to shareholders, to not be answerable to other factions within the company that are desperate to push up prices so they can make more money. I said, do you know how good it is to be able to say, I've got to go from my little business and walk around the corner and go visit the mayor's offices or go to a council meeting or whatever, and put $100 or $200 in your pocket and $5 notes, because you're going to pass so many people on the way around that a lousy little $5 here and there is nice, and makes it selfish because you feel good about it. But it's terrific to be able to do that, you know, to have reached that stage in life. And with the business, all you're really looking to try and do is make sure that you cover everything, you know, and that's how we got into it.
Tell me a little bit more about the association itself, what type of medicine it provided, and what kind of an involvement in the community it had since the beginning.
Well, as far as we've got a wide variety of product from what I would consider reasonably expensive, say $60 sort of eighths, all the way down to $5 products. And I believe, because of the way that it's always been structured, that we've always been able, in particular, to take care of people at the bottom end financially. And we give up to 40% discounts for service people. We give 20% discounts for most people that have, you know, really serious life-threatening, and we give 10% to a whole lot of other people. And we try and make sure that people that are really struggling can at least get something that'll give them some relief during the evenings. We've got products that we know can help you for, particularly for a lot of diabetic problems, can help you with appetite, can help you with pain, can help you with sleep, can help you with nausea, you know, can simply relax you to an extent that the pressures of the day aren't going to destroy you right through the night. And I think that that's the whole basis. Is it seems to me that this is a natural product that has the ability to heal you and allow you to at least experience a quality form of life.
What happened on the day of the raid? What did they take from the collective?
Well, the reason that I think we were very surprised and very, very disappointed in the raid is that, I don't know how long it was before that, but it could have only been 2 or 3 months, that the mayor made certain statements, and the city attorney told him that all the mayor had to do was advise him, and then he would follow through. And the mayor advised the city attorney on not to prosecute people, that to discontinue prosecutions, and an offer was made to us and another 13 or 14 places that if we agreed that we would not seek lawyers' funds, fees or whatever against the council, in other words, we wouldn't come back and sue the city of San Diego, then they would withdraw a court hearing that I think we had set for August or September, so everything would go away. And we agreed with that. We endorsed that. Nobody else agreed with that, and 2 or 3 or 4 days later, when it was raised again, then the mayor stated, okay, well, people haven't taken advantage of this, and now they've chosen the right to proceed against the city. So from this day until the council make a decision, everything will stay as it is, which included me being open. I mean, we'd agreed that we had no intentions of taking out legal action or whatever against the city, and after we've done that, we've been shut down. It just seemed completely at odds with what we had thought. I was at home. I struggle a little bit to get it around sometimes in the morning, and just received a call right out of nowhere. Actually, I had received a phone call at about 5 minutes past 10 or a little bit after that, saying that there has just been a statement made by City Attorney Goldsmith. I think they said on public radio that there will be raids on medical marijuana stores and they will begin immediately. And they were the words, and I hung the phone up, and less than 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, I get the phone call that we're being raided. Right on top of the phone call saying this statement's just been made. And so we were in shock. Our instructions to everybody were, if authorities come in,
I want to jump in there and again, state that because it's an ongoing investigation against Ken Cole, that I would advise you to to not make statements that could interfere with the investigation moving forward. Again, Ken is cooperating with the investigation, but again, we don't want to interfere with anything that the U.S. attorneys are doing as part of this continuing investigation.
Right.
So tell us more about the day of the raid. They came in the morning, and what happened?
Well, they broke through the front door, forced their way into the back, and then simply confiscated. They held a couple of people there briefly, or for a couple of hours. They confiscated all of the product that we had in there, along with a small amount of money.
Do you feel that the dispensary or the Patients Association was unfairly targeted or particularly targeted? And if so, why?
Well, I won't go into any reasons why. It would seem to, yes, I believe obviously that we're unfairly targeted, but only for one reason. It would have seemed to me that if federal authorities were going to come in and wanted to ascertain whether or not, you were operating according to state laws or city laws or whatever, but certainly that you were operating in compliance with local law, that one of the city agencies, who we've invited and asked a number of times, so it was Jan Goldsmith's office, that somebody should have come in and at least done a cursory inspection of our facility. So when federal authorities say, we're going to close down all of these people that are not in compliance, and here's a list of some of the people that we're looking to raid, I would have hoped at that stage that was when the city or the state authorities would say, well, these people appear to be in compliance, and we would sooner that you left them for our jurisdiction. Once we sort out our laws, then they'll either be 100% legal or they'll be zoned out. But I don't know how people can be making these decisions when they've never come in. That's all that I'm complaining about. I'm saying you can make that decision and give us the reason and close us down. And we've never said we wouldn't close if we were in violation. We've stayed the way we are because we've believed that we were doing it the right way. If they tell us we're not, either we can fix it and improve it the way that they want it done, or we would close.
Have they shown you or told you or provided any kind of information to you about you not doing it the right way in some way?
No.
I don't want to go into the nature of the investigation.
Okay.
No problem. Are you planning on reopening?
I don't know. All of my gut instincts are that, I've just got so many patients out there and our phones ring off the hook. And it's a terrible feeling at night a lot of the times to feel it, because I know what's happening to me. You know, I know what's happening to my body, and I know the strain that it's already placing on my family and close friends. So knowing that, I also know I'm not the only one. And there's got to be a lot of people out there that are worse than me, worse off than me. And there's a lot of people that are perhaps heading in similar directions to what I am, and hopefully a lot of people that we could help never get that far. And so you're really torn in feeling that there's got to be a way to help these people. And then the reality is, I don't know that I'm capable of prolonging a fight too much longer. I'm definitely struggling a little bit with it, and I have no desire to get into any sort of prolonged fight with federal authorities. I mean, we've told them what we think, that we think we're right and we're doing this the right way, and if they adjudicate that we're not, then we're out of business. I would just like to have the understanding the other way too, Lance, and that is that if they adjudicate that we are, that they leave us alone. You know, that it'd be nice to have, you know, it's not a good fight to get into, to say, well, if I beat, you know, you beat me to a pulp and then you can say I won at the end. I don't think that's a good fight. But so I think if they want to have a look at us and make a judgment that, you know, we're not a legal entity, then we're not going to argue, we're out of business. But on the other hand, if it's ruled that we are they prepared to back off and say, okay, that's fine? And I think, you know, I just think we're asking for fairness, and we're really now into a domain where I think it's unequivocal that this particular product can help thousands of people to a better quality of life. I don't see a downside to this. I think the revenue side, that's a whole new ballgame, but this is something that morally and ethically, it crosses all barriers. This is not Republican, Democrat or anything else. This is people. And, you know, when it came up recently in court and people saying, well, bring people in wheelchairs and everything else, when the bottom line is they all look like us. That's who our patient base looks like. They look like us. They're ordinary people. It's just everyday people. They're not criminals. They're not running around there thinking, I'm going to go out and break the law today and try and get a horrible illegal drug. That's not it. And for all of the good intentions, many times of council people and government officials, they produce terrible, terrible results. And they've got to start looking at this from, number one, I would have thought that I was a really good example for people in this business, because I don't think it's just the letter of the law. I think it should be the intent too. And I think if I'm looking at the intent of the law, and the intent was to give safe access to people that really feel that this can benefit them. And I've always laughed at the idea when people say, well, why do you go to a doctor? You go to a doctor to get prescription medication of some kind that hopefully you're going to feel better about. You're going to feel better. It's going to make you feel, you went to the doctor to feel a little better, not to feel worse. Well, I don't have too many patients that don't feel better when they come in and get some medical marijuana from us. If that's one of your main criteria, is to feel that the health system is working, then certainly we're well and truly within that framework. People that use medical marijuana, generally speaking, feel better that they did so. So, you know, I think we're on the side of the angels. Whatever happens in our situation, if I'm not able to reopen, and it'll probably be for health reasons if I'm not, we're nearly over the line with, you know, at making this work with good people. And it doesn't mean that somebody strips us of whatever we were looking to try and do. We're just part of the fight. And it would be nice to be able to continue to speak up until we get this fully into the mainstream. And we're so close. This is the last group of people that will not come out of the closet, but we're very close.
The San Diego Police Department during the day of the raid was nowhere to be seen around the Patients Association, even though the association was located in the heart of the city of San Diego. So it was clear they weren't participating in the raid. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, they've been good. You know, we've had no problem. We've invited guys in, you know, shown them through the store and everything. We've had cars parked outside getting food at the Turkish food place who didn't know who we were. Who, you know, hey officer, how are you today? Have you been here before? And no, would you like to drop in and meet the guys or anything else? What are you? We're here. What is that? Oh, what are you here for? I'm here to get some food next door. Oh, okay, well we're a medical marijuana place. Oh, are you really? You know, I mean, it's always been a very relaxed relationship with them. And see, this is the other thing that's ridiculous. Eugene, there used to be a fight or a major brawl across the road when this was a bar every Friday and Saturday virtually. There was a major damage incident nearly monthly where they'd smash in the front windows or the front doors or badly damaged cars outside. 0 in 2.5 years. None. Just 0, you know. No damage to property, no brawls across the road, no fights out on the footpath all over, nothing. And so, you know, this is why I'm sure that the whole thing is going to it's very close to breaking the right way, because once people see our type of businesses being operated fully and professionally, the fear factors will disappear.
How do you feel about the federal government's intervention in states' rights with regards to medical marijuana?
I'm astounded. I'm astounded. You know, so many reasons that we came to the United States, you know, 33, 35 years ago were based around the terrific beliefs of the United States, of the people in general, and it just seems to me astounding that the federal government can come in and override, which is one of the reasons I was shocked when they took all of the patients' records. And every day there's an article in the paper with somebody somewhere with nothing to do with medical marijuana complaining about the government overstepping and looking at their medical records, and they come in and confiscate all of your medical records. Their battle is not with us. You know, if they want to tighten up regulations with the medical profession, let them sort it out with the medical profession, but they're blaming us.
Is there any advice that you would give to lawmakers working to write new rules for patients with regards to medical marijuana?
I think the rules and regulations this will all sort itself out. It would all gradually settle down. This would relieve law authorities of an incredible burden. It will take away a lot of the persecution in lower income areas, I think, throughout the country that have gone on for a long time. It'd end all of that, and it'd change community relationships right around it. It'd free the police up to do the things that they know are really important. My perception is that the police are probably not much different than any other group in society, and there's probably about a 70% of the people in there, 60% think medical marijuana is just fine. There's another percentage of them around the halfway mark that are okay with marijuana in general, and there's a small percentage that are violently opposed. Pretty much a similar breakdown, and the majority of officers that we've run across for years have been fantastic. You know, as soon as you get to talk, once you get to talk to each other about some of the people, once you get to talk to them about the young soldier with half his skull gone, how do you feel about that? You know, the reality sets in, and then you find just how many people in our community are touched by some family member or close friend who has used marijuana extensively because of some major illness, and their whole thoughts they change overnight. When a guy walks up and hugs you and says, "I think you may have saved my mother's life," and that guy and their family and all of their friends absolutely have nothing to do with marijuana ever.
What would you say to those in the DEA, for example, that say that marijuana has no medical value, there's no such thing as smoking a medicine, things like that?
Well, I don't believe anybody can be that blissfully ignorant. I really don't. So there's got to be another agenda. You know, I've got to assume that those people are smart people, and any small amount of research would tell them that that's beyond farcical. It's just beyond farcical, and they shouldn't make statements like that anymore. Maybe in 1935, but not anymore. And I think all I would say to federal authorities, hey, come visit us and sit down. Tell us if you want us to do this slightly differently or change something around, or you've got a better way. But we can show you. I mean, we want this to be done the right way. We're not trying to find ways to wiggle around laws or whatever. We're trying to find ways to make this better. And I believe 3 or 4 reasonable people sitting in a room together should be able to solve all of these problems in less than 4 hours. Plenty of time for lunch.
During the day of the raid, there was a number of community members, patient advocates that came out outraged at the actions taken by the federal government that day. There's a lot of folks out there that care about this issue. And what advice would you give to those advocates in the community trying to move this issue along?
The advice I would give is talk more and more and more to everybody you know about the compassionate side of marijuana. about what you have seen, what you personally experience, you know, on your own. What is it doing for you? How has it helped you? Give me some examples of your friends. Talk to them. Just talk to anybody and everybody. Everybody I meet, whether it's traveling, whether it's here in town or anything else, and when they finally say at some stage early on or whatever, well, what are you doing with yourself? I say, I'm involved in medical marijuana. We've got the best, bang, straight away. And now the discussion starts. And every single person that we have the discussion with ends up at the stage that I don't know why we're doing this. I really don't know, you know, why the government would still be fighting this when we're looking to try and think just a wee bit maybe outside the box to see if we can fix some of these medical problems. And I think that's where I think the fact that we are in a serious discussion now in this country at last about healthcare, I think that this needs to figure heavily into the argument.
Ken, Lance, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, make sure that you get hold of a lawyer that can give you good advice. that would definitely be. I think everybody's just got to stay strong. And they've got to be prepared to speak up, and if they're with a group of friends or whatever that start talking in a negative way about marijuana, to at least put yourself back into the discussion and take the other side. It might be hard at the beginning, it won't be hard if you persist.
Kenneth Cole, Lance Rogers, thank you for your time, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you.